was in. And, you know, I got the internship course at Kationa Deli. 2 weeks later, they hired me. So I did that, and then I broke the news to my mother, my parents, and she was just in tears. You know, it was a moment where our relationship kind of separated. Finally, you know, fast forward maybe 4 years ago, only, yeah. Until relatives in Paris, they phoned her. They're like, "Do you realize your son's in the papers in France?" And she's like, "What?" Yeah, so I kind of kept it all a secret.
Amazing story.
Coming up, we find out how Phillip Lim and his partner broke the mold and into the fashion world.
One says that her accountant thought you were both completely bonkers.
I agree with him. I agree with him. You know, no guts, no glory.
Living Golf Minute in time with Rolex.
Ryo Ishikawa, at 15 years old, the youngest ever winner of a top professional tournament. Young, gifted, fashionable, family-loving, impeccably polite, he's a multi-millionaire and he's a Japanese marketing man's dream.
Being a busy golf player, one of the few pleasures I can have apart from playing golf is fashion. I think one of the jobs of professional golfers is being watched by people.
Ishikawa's fame spread far beyond Japan when, on the 2nd of May this year, he shot a 58 in the final round of the Crowns tournament in Aichi.
It was just like being a dream. It was as if the ball and the cap had magnetic powers to each other.
So here we have a couple looks from the 2011 show. This look here is an idea of using silk and polyester and using technology to give that sense of armor to something as delicate as silk. This trench coat, the take of a classic trench coat, but we did it in organza, so it's light as a feather. This look here is about layering geometric planes and patterns, and kind of when you're looking at it, you're like, where does it end? Where does it begin? Is it one piece? Is it three pieces? So that's the whole idea of what I'm trying to do with clothing.
So when you took up the internship at Kationa Deli, you stayed there for a couple of years.
Yes, yes.
And you've spoken of it as being, you know, particularly grueling.
It was grueling, and also, I mean, you know, mind you, at that point, I didn't want to be a fashion designer. I didn't even know what a fashion designer was. I just wanted to be immersed in the surroundings. I was a great support system of just making things work and making things happen. So it was really a great instructional life course of how to get it done, you know, and it was just, I played the role of support.
And after that, you were poached by development.
Yes, but actually poached by friends to start development. And development is something I started with partners. It was, I mean, development was a development for my mind, you know, and I fought that also because I was like, I'm the wrong person. I'm not a fashion designer. I only worked in a studio, that's it. And it was so difficult to like actualize the fact that you could take pen to paper and sketch something, because I've never done that before in a real life setting. I finally broke free and, you know, sketched the first 30 pieces to a collection, and, you know, it went to market. And I remember all of us having second real like day jobs while we were doing this at night in a garage in Newport Beach, California. And we were saying, you know, okay, if the first sales order was more than $3,000, okay, we're all going to quit the day job and pursue this. And it was with American Rag Japan. And it was $30,000. And $30,000 as a first order in 2000, the year 2000, that was phenomenal, you know? And that kind of launched my career as a professional fashion designer.
It did become this sort of, you know, cult favorite.
Yeah.
And you were there for 5 years.
There for 5 years. And at the end, you know, we had creative differences, you know, from my business partners. And then, we broke up, you know. I was unemployed for the first time in a long time.
You weren't jobless for long, though, because by then you'd met Wen Zhou, who was...
I met Wen, and we were friends, and we had no idea that we would start this company that we now have, 31 Phillip Lim. I remember after walking away from my company, going home, you know, having a beer, watching Oprah. Because I was available in the daytime. I had free time. It was strange. And she's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm just watching Oprah." And she's like, "Oh, why don't you come out, come shopping with me, you know, just take your mind off things." And she lives in New York, and that was a Monday, and she goes, "I have a ticket for you for Thursday, the same week, and it will be one-way tickets, so you can come back anytime you want." I'm like, "Okay, I have nothing to do anyways." That weekend, she convinced me to just stay in New York and start a business. And I don't know why I agreed, but I guess she was quite a force. You couldn't say no to her.
One says that her accountant thought you were both completely bonkers.
Yes.
Did you question your sanity?
I agree with him. I agree with him. But again, I think that it takes kind of crazies to really do anything. But, you know, no guts, no glory. And I think we were young-ish, or younger. We were 31. So at that time, too, you know, you're kind of naive because, again, we had no expectations. We didn't come from heritage. We didn't come from working for famous people. It was just this desire to create clothes that were beautiful but accessible.
So even though the accountant thought that you were off your rocker, you did actually manage to get into profit territory after about 6 months.
Yes.
Did you expect it to happen quite so fast?
No, but if you ask Wen, she would say yes. I mean, she's a brilliant businesswoman. You know, it's like, talk about a powerhouse. And, you know, it goes back to just the innate instinct to survive. And that's a secret, you know. It's just like we had to make sure we were gonna go into this head first, but have realistic expectations and something to fall back on, you know. So that's how we proceeded. And, you know, we were profitable the first 6 months.
Most designers do sort of cater to this, if you have to ask, you can't afford it, you know, section of the market. Can you ever see yourself wanting to go ultra high-end? I mean, not necessarily entirely, but have a very high-end side of the business?
No. I can say that through and through, just because, again, it goes back to my values, you know. It goes back to where I come from. And you think about, you know, dresses costing $5,000, $10,000, $20,000. Some families don't even make that in a year. You know, can you imagine? Like, you'd have to make that decision. Do I buy a dress or do I feed a family? It's kind of crazy, you know. And again, I think that it goes back to, just because it costs a lot doesn't necessarily mean it looks good and it's stylish, you know. I think that